my friend Danielle in the house. She's our guest cook today, and she's going to show us her red sauce recipe and give us a tutorial. Thanks, Danielle.
Thanks. So I love to make pasta. It's my favorite thing to make, and I wanted to introduce this recipe for just a second. When I was in college, I dated someone who had gone to Italy on his mission, and he already knew how to cook before he got there. So he would hang out in the Italian kitchens with all the Italian grandmas, and this is how he learned to make his red sauce for pasta, and that's the best.
Nice.
So we start on medium heat with extra virgin olive oil, and I like a good amount of that, maybe half a cup. Most pasta recipes only have a couple tablespoons. That's not going to cut it to get the flavor that we want from this one. So I have onions here cut up. And you start with the onions, and we're going to cook them until they are translucent. If they get a little bit brown, you're okay. If they get black, just chuck it and start over, because you're not going to get the flavor you want if your onions or your garlic get too dark. So we're just going to cook this over medium heat until the onions turn nice and translucent. So now I have garlic. I have about 6 cloves chopped up here. We're going to add that. The onions are now translucent.
That's what the onions look like, and then the garlic.
And then we'll add the carrots. So the carrots give sweetness to it the Italian way. Americans will put white sugar in their red sauce sometimes, and that's no good. We prefer to use carrots. It's healthier and it's more authentic Italian.
That's a great tip.
You also could grate the carrots finer if you'd like a finer texture, but I'm fine with these bigger ones. So this just needs to cook for a few minutes to cook those carrots down. You need to be patient with a good red sauce. I definitely don't cook it all day or anything like that, but each step you need to leave enough time for it to cook, and after you add the tomatoes in, it needs plenty of time for the moisture to cook out to get a rich flavor. We want crushed tomatoes. We're going to add 1 can of crushed tomatoes, and we're going to do 2 cans of small petite diced tomatoes, and these are drained so it's not too watery. I use the petite diced tomatoes because the regular diced tomatoes are going to be too big. Okay, let's do a close-up of this while we stir this in.
I like your shredded carrots in there for a little bit of color too.
Pretty hot. We're going to give this plenty of time to cook. The tomatoes need time to, they have a lot of water content in them, and we need to reduce the water content or it will taste watery. Meanwhile, we are going to put some beef bouillon in here. This is a secret ingredient for this recipe. It takes away the acidity of the tomatoes and gives it a richer flavor. Depending on how high you like your spice, you can add more or less of this, but I just do a pinch of this. This is crushed red pepper, and it just gives it a little extra bite that I like. Next is oregano. Go really easy on the oregano. We're talking like a pinch or maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon or something. You do not want a lot of oregano. Americans, when they cook Italian food, they overdo the oregano, and it's not really the authentic Italian food, the way that the Italians do it, which is the point of this sauce is it's supposed to be really authentic. And you don't want to use too much oregano or it will taste like American pizza does. When you walk into an American pizza chain, the oregano is a very strong smell, which we tend to like in America, but just go easy on the oregano for this part. This is basil. Now, this is the main flavor in this, the garlic and the basil.
You're not going easy on the basil.
Not easy on the basil at all. That's about 3 tablespoons for this.
Whoa.
And when you mix it in, you're actually going to see the basil in there. It will not just look red, it will look red and green. You can use fresh basil if you would like. If you
That
use
is a lot of basil.
fresh basil, you add it after the tomatoes have cooked down, because the fresh basil doesn't need to cook as long. So we're gonna stir this all the way in and let it cook for about 15 minutes when we will add our last two ingredients.
And Danielle, are you on like a medium heat?
Yes, I've kept it on medium this whole time.
Smells great.
Okay, next we're gonna add some salt into the boiling water, and we don't need to let those noodles start cooking yet because they don't cook that long, but we'll just add our salt in there so we don't forget. The salt will flavor the pasta. You have to flavor the pasta while it's boiling. So now I'm grating the Parmesan cheese that goes right in the sauce. I also like to have a bowl of Parmesan cheese for the table that people can pass around when they want more, but this part of it is actually going in the sauce. This can be the last ingredient if you don't like heavy cream, but if you like heavy cream, we're gonna add some heavy cream in ours. That takes it from being a red sauce to being a pink sauce. Today we are eating this just with the sauce and the noodles. Most of the time I do serve it with ground Italian sausage or Italian sausage links on the side, depending on your preferences. So have the Parmesan. With it being on medium heat, every few minutes you can kind of stir it. If you want to just leave it alone, I would turn it down to low and just let it cook for a while. You want to make sure that that beef bouillon has completely dissolved, because you don't want someone to have to bite into an undissolved beef bouillon. I just found that bouillon right there. So
That would be a
just
really
make sure
salty bite.
Make sure you stir it enough so that and give it enough time for the bouillon to completely dissolve. It's never happened at my house, but it could happen.
I wonder if you could do that in the crock pot.
I've done
Just
it
like you have done it?
Done it in the crock pot before. Okay. You would have to cook the onion and the garlic. So that's what I do. I'll put the cans of tomatoes in the crock pot and the bouillon and the spices, and then on the stove cook the onions and garlic and then dump it in and then stir it and then you can leave it.
Yeah.
So this is Barilla pasta. It's the only kind I use. And we're gonna add this whole box to here. Don't break the noodles. It's an Italian no-no to break the noodles. So if your pot isn't big enough that they all go in, when they soften, then you just stir them and they will all be in the water. But don't break them. So once these have had a minute to soften up, you can just stir them to make sure the noodles get all the way in there, and then set a timer. It will tell you on the box how many minutes to set the timer, depending on the size of noodles. These ones are 4-minute noodles.
That's it, huh? Because they're so thin.
So a minute or two into when your pasta's cooking, you want to stir it, otherwise you can get little strands that stick together. So just give it a stir. Okay, so we're gonna put this cheese in here.
Don't you think freshly grated, freshly shredded tastes so much better?
Yes. Definitely does. Just
Oh, you put the cream and the cheese at the same time, huh?
And then we'll just stir that up for a minute, and it will go from being a red sauce to a nice pink color.
Look at all that basil in there. It's going to be really good. Looks great.
After we put the cream and the cheese in, I'm going to turn it down to low.
Your 4 minutes is up.
Okay, the pasta's ready. We'll go ahead and dump these noodles.
So Danielle, tell me, do you rinse your noodles or no?
No.
Okay.
No rinsing the noodles.
That's a big
No.
controversial thing, you know.
No. If you need to put something on the noodles so they don't stick, we're actually just going to put the noodles in the sauce and they're not going to stick.
Like olive oil or butter?
We're just going to use the sauce.
Yeah.
So we're going to take the noodles, shake out the water, and then put them in the sauce and they won't stick. But if you do need to put something in the noodles, you would put olive oil in. Okay, so we're going to pour the sauce in with the noodles and stir that up. I think there's a little extra sauce.
I'm gonna get right in there.
Stir this up.
That looks really good.
Then we will go ahead and eat. I know some people like to do a meatless Monday. I think this is a great meatless dish. Or you could add sausage links, or you can even add a ground sausage to this recipe. It's very adaptable. But I like to have it as a meatless dish sometimes. There we are.
Okay, Danielle, let's get this plated. I'm so excited to eat. It smells so good. Okay, give me a big old scoop. That looks so good. Wow.
Try to eat it as soon as possible after I finish cooking it, because
Look
it's
at it
better warm.
steaming. And if you like your sauce to noodle ratio different, you can add more sauce, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we've got to put some Parmesan over the top of this. Does everybody want Parm?
Mm-hmm. Look at that plate.
That's a high carb, delicious looking meal right there. We're carb loading for our walk tomorrow, right, ladies?
Yeah.
Look at that. And if you wanted, you could do a salad or some broccoli or some green beans to make it a well-balanced meal. But we do have our carrots and the tomatoes, right, girls?
And the onions and garlic.
Bon appetit. Thanks, Danielle, for coming.
Thank you for having me.